What is going on, guys? Michael with MMA Island here interviewing UFC heavyweight Chase Sherman. Chase, man, lots to talk about. You got a fight coming up. You're getting called out. Let me just ask you, man, how do you feel about the upcoming fight you got against Parker Porter?
I feel great, man. This is the second camp I've had for Parker, so ready to go, ready to get it over with, ready to get it on.
So I knew you were a busy guy. You're a firefighter. You're a UFC fighter. You told me you were working security for a music festival on the weekend. You're out here training, man. Like I always want to ask you guys, how do you have free time?
We don't, man. It's just you know, that's the when you get paid like we do as fighters, you got to have a couple extra jobs in the back pocket. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're out at camp. You know what I mean? Because I'm essentially paying for two mortgages right now. You know, you got the Airbnb out here that you're staying in for 2 months, and then your house back home and all the bills. So I was just asked to do that Rolling Loud concert, work some security for that, and so I just picked up a little extra work on this weekend. So money in the bank.
Perfect, man. Yeah. And we're gonna talk about a lot that we're talking about. The fight you got coming up, Parker Porter, and we'll talk about the cancellation and the Andre Arlovsky fight. But just mentioning Parker Porter, how do you see that fight going? Do you see you getting a knockout? What do you think is the prediction for that fight?
Yeah. To be like a little bit, I have to get in there and kind of really, if I'm going to be really specific on, how I see the fight being finished. I do see me finishing him, obviously. But that's other than that, that's pretty much what I got. Is he comes forward heavily, and there's a couple of things that he does in his stand up that's a little bit suspect, and I plan on trying to kind of expose those holes in his game. So we'll right now we're still focusing on a lot of stuff that I want to do and how I want to get better. And as time nears, we're like 3 weeks out or so. Then I'll have a clear cut vision on how we're going to implement the things that we're going to implement.
Yeah, and it's an interesting question to ask people when they're upcoming to a fighter, because obviously you get the guys who are just like, I'll destroy anybody in the division. There's also the guys that know the power that the other opponent holds. Do you view him as a threat, or you are just like, yeah, he's just another guy in the way?
Well, no, I mean, you gotta respect everybody that is standing in front of you, man. Especially a heavyweight. Yeah, he's a threat. He's in the fucking UFC. You know what I mean? Like, he's a threat. Obviously, he's a threat to the win column. He's a threat to my livelihood. He's a threat to my finances. He's a threat to my just my name, my career, everything. You know what I mean? He's a threat, obviously, to all of that. And so to try to convince yourself that someone's not a threat that has literally been training for, I would say, 5 months now, because this is the second camp, to hurt me and to in his own words, he says he's going to finish me and get a $50,000 bonus. So somebody that's preparing to do that is a threat. And I don't take threats lightly. So.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing that, actually. It's weird when I was going through my interview notes and everything. I totally blew past my mind, but I remember seeing him post that, saying that he was going to finish you, and I remember you saying like, "Oh, you're going to finish me," and
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, he had a podcast that he said that on, which is, that's fine. I mean, you think you're going to finish me, but then you didn't go as far as to say like you're going to finish me and get a bonus. Like it's gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, that's got to be a pretty significant finish. You know what I mean? Because I've only got one bonus, and I think I finished everybody I fought in the UFC. You know what I mean? So, and but who knows?
Yeah, so the fight, your first time that fight was scheduled, the fight fell out, and you accepted Andre Arlovsky, like a legend, on what was it, short notice? How late was the notice on that?
It was a week to prepare and then fight week. So
Yeah, that's
essentially,
crazy having on Andre Arlovsky, like the former heavyweight champion, on 1 week notice. So, and I want to ask you about that fight. How do you look back on that fight for you?
man, I was really for a while now. For a while there, I was really bitter about it and how everything just kind of progressed um, with the training camp and the injuries and dealing with all that and just the shit luck that went into that fight. And and I was really kind of bitter about it, man. And then now as time's progressing, I've seen what it's actually done for me and how it's kind of changed me and in a lot of ways that most people don't know. I'm grateful for it. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for everything that happened. I'm grateful for, um, having to deal with the stress of preparing for that on a week's notice. I'm grateful for, my coach not being able to come the week, finding that out the week prior. My main coach, he ended up getting COVID. I'm grateful for, dealing with the injuries. And I'm grateful for, 5 minutes before walking out, tearing my knee in the back. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for all those things. And the reason mostly becomes is like, if it wasn't for all that stuff that had happened, I wouldn't have seen like what I really needed to work on. Because prior to walking out to that fight, man, I was convinced, like, you know what I mean? Even though all this shit had happened, with my coaches and the opponent and, all the injuries throughout camp, just everything, I was convinced that I was going to run through Andre Arlovsky, and there was no other way around it. Like I never felt like that before fight, man. I had just so much pent up like aggression I needed to release. I just got off that stupid suspension. It was my first fight back and like my first full camp in the UFC ever. And I was ready to go, man. And I was convinced that I was going to run through him. You know what I mean? Like this was my time. And then 5 minutes, I mean, literally like 5 minutes before I walked out, the fight before mine was up. And I just stepped to go throw like a kick. I was kicking the pads and I pivoted on my foot and then pop, my fucking knee snapped. And I couldn't even extend it. So I had a complete tear in my meniscus, before even walking to the cage, And so I was fighting on one leg. But what I found out about it was like, at that point I went from I'm going to destroy this dude to like, don't get fucking embarrassed. You know what I mean? And so really when I go back and look at it, and I have to be honest with myself and really, really kind of like, be honest. I wasn't as mentally tough as I thought I was, you know what I mean? Because I won that fight and I almost finished him, you know what I mean? I almost finished him in the first round, and then still there was like, that was a really close fight, even though I only had one leg. But because I had already told myself there's no way I'm winning this fight, you know what I mean? Just go out there and don't, get knocked out. Don't get embarrassed. Don't, I mean? I already had flipped that switch. So what that had told me was like, you really need to work on what's up here. You know what I mean? And so from that point on, man, I had a long drive home. I drove my Jeep to Colorado to train, and then drove from Colorado to Vegas. And so I had to drive all the way from Vegas to fucking South Mississippi in a Jeep that was a standard with a fucking torn knee and a leg that had gotten kicked 30 times in the calf, the same leg, ironically. And so, and during that time, I had a lot of time to think. And I knew that I was going to have surgery. So I had to have surgery. So I knew then I wasn't going to be able to, like, get off the couch or do anything. So I was like, man, I'm going to have to, like, really work on what's going on upstairs, because fighting is such a mental game, man. I mean, all sports are, but fighting is the most mental game there is. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's the only thing that's really has, like, you know what I mean, adhered me from being at the top of the top. in my career, because you can't tell me that there's very few heavyweights out there that's as athletic and has the skills that I naturally possess. You know, the speed, the quickness, the strength, the power, all of those things, and the chin, obviously, the grittiness, all that. And so, like, what has been stopping me from getting to the top? And it hasn't been my work ethic. It hasn't been, you know, all those other attributes we discussed just now. It's really just been what's going on upstairs. Because when this is on, bro, like, there's very few people on the planet that I feel like can hang with me. I mean, you seen what I did to Ikeville and the Wayville in 6 days. That was 6 days notice. And I hadn't done anything. I hadn't touched. That was the first time I put my hands on somebody in over 2 months. I'm talking about sparring, hitting pads, whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously I hit pads on Fight Week, but I hadn't done anything. But because I was like so excited to be back in the UFC, and I just didn't give a shit what happened. I just was going to go show the world what I'm capable of. Like, man, I wasn't worried about my cardio. I wasn't worried about anything. And I put it on them, you know. And so, you know, I think that just really goes to show like how mental of a game it is, you know. And that was also my first MMA fight in over a year. So I just realized I had to work on that. And I had to take that time off. And if it wasn't for all the shit that had happened there, then I probably wouldn't have, you know, dug as deep as I had to dig, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like one thing I'm working on a little bit is getting the upstairs right. And so, but other than that, I'd love to fight Andre Arlovski again, man. Because if I had both legs under me, you know what I mean? Like, he's gone in the first round. He's gone. You know, and hit him with that step through right hand, man. If I had both my legs, it was lights out. And what sucks about it too is like that would have been that there was only one other finish on that card. So I finish him and I'm going home with a nice payday, a new contract, you know, just knocked out a Hall of Famer in the first round. And said I was going home with a bunch of hurt feelings and a hurt leg, you know. But all of that stuff happened for a reason. So
yeah, no,
it's kind of my story.
I'm happy I asked you. That's a crazy story and something that I guess a lot of people didn't know. I mean, how could they? Especially because going into that fight, it's like that is a legend. He's a former champion. He's a Hall of Famer, like you said. And I totally agree with you. It was a very, very close fight. Man, that it's just definitely I would like to see you get a crack at him again. But again, you just got called out. This is crazy because when I interviewed you the first time, I asked you, hey, how does it feel to get called out by Rodrigo Nascimento? And then he goes and fights again. And who does he call out when he gets the win? He calls out you. So is this guy? What does this guy see in you? Is he just wants to fight you so bad?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's the thing that's weird is like, I mean, I'm flattered in a way, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's flattering in a sense. I haven't seen him be disrespectful in any way, but it's kind of strange. Because you know, like, yeah, I understand you. Like, you just got into the UFC and you called me out the first time. Like, okay, yeah, cool, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, but to this is over a year later, and like the first thing you say is my name again as soon as they hand you the microphone, and then you go like you fucking are begging for the fight. You're like asking Mick. You're like, please, Mick, please give me this fight. I'm just like, kind of like now it's like kind of hurting my feelings. I'm like, what the fuck did I do to this guy? You know what I mean? And so like, and I see him looking at all my stories on Instagram. Like he's like, I'll look at my story and every single one of them. He's like one of the first people to watch it, but he doesn't follow me on Instagram. So he's like having to go type my name in and then like look at my story and then like, so it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But he can, I mean, we can grab, I mean, we can, if he wants to fight, we can fight, you know, or we will fight.
How did you feel about his performance? Because obviously it was a comeback. I don't know if you saw it, but he was getting beat up in the first round, and then he came back, and I guess the guy tired out or whatever it was, hit the shot, and he ended up getting the TKO in the second round. How do you feel about his performance?
I think he did a good job of. So either either he baited that guy in and didn't, like, you know what I mean, like baited him and let him wear himself out a little bit in the first round, and then, you know what I mean, which is a savvy move. It's kind of a risky one, you know what I mean, to give away a round essentially. Um, Either he did that on purpose, or, you know what I mean, he just responded really well, and that was good on his part, you know what I mean, because at first I was like, damn, like he's not looking too hot, you know what I'm saying, like he didn't, you know, but good for him, man.
Yeah.
That
So
was a mark of a true fighter to come back like that. So
yeah,
good for him.
definitely. And I think it's a perfect way to go for you because I think Parker Porter is a great matchup to make for you right now. And then if you get the win, I think that's another great matchup to make is up against him. And you said after I handle business with Porter, I got you. So
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's a great fight to make.
yeah. I think, man, too. And timeline could be really well. I mean, I'm supposed to get married. I say supposed to. I'm getting married in September.
You never know.
Yeah, yeah, you never know. I can get struck by lightning when I walk out of this door. And and September 17th, and so, you know, man, if they're doing November 6th in Madison Square Garden, you know, man, that would, man, dude, I haven't fought in front of anybody in 2 years, man. Like, I'm ready to be in front of a crowd. I'm ready to just feel those nerves and that energy, and just, you know, I just need it. I need it.
No, a fighter of your caliber. It's funny. I was actually going to ask you that how excited you are to fight fight in front of fans. Because even in the Apex, I guess they're starting to get people back, but nothing beats an MSG, packed up MSG. But man,
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to ask you
So
about
I would line up perfectly. Yeah, I would just fight,
yeah.
get the win here in August. You know, go do the wedding, and then shoot into September. You know what I mean? Like, screw the honeymoon. We're going back into training camp, baby.
Come back with 50K or hey, maybe even 75K. They've been bringing it up recently for the paper.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and then your division. Obviously, I assume you pay attention like to the champs and all that's going on in your division, especially. They made an
Yeah.
interim belt for that, and I know a lot of people were saying that they shouldn't have. I want to get your opinion. How do you feel about them making an interim belt?
It was bizarre. I kind of took it, you know, kind of like everybody else did. You know what I mean? It was kind of bizarre. Um, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't know. Even I don't really know what to think, man. I don't know why they did that. I don't understand. I mean, it's not like he hasn't been in. I mean, what? How long was the layoff?
I think yeah,
But
they asked him if he wanted to fight the month before and then the month that they made the interim belt, and he said no, and they said September. So with it being in August, you'd think that's not big of a deal, 1 month, but they just went ahead and made the belt. But Dana says that to make it champ versus champ, you get either Derek Lewis or Cyril Gane as the champ, and then you make a champ versus champ fight, which everybody loves apparently. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just hope, like, with everything going on, and with the you know, with the fucking the YouTube fighters and all the antics that is going on with you know, BKFC, and just kind of seeing how, like, almost like social media and all this stuff is kind of like affecting the sport. I just hope that, like, it doesn't affect, like, the sanctity of the sport, like, as far as, like, we're creating fights just out of the factor of, like, entertainment and stuff, which I know it's an entertainment business, but, like, I don't want, like, mixed martial arts to turn into, like, fucking WWE. You know what I mean?
sure.
Where, like, you know, the best fighters aren't getting the opportunities. It's the who's the best, like, who has the best, like, social media following, or
Yeah.
who, you know what I mean, does the craziest fucking antics or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, I just hope that doesn't happen, because, you know, if that happens, then, you know, like, it's not anymore about, like, who's the best. It's like, just, you know, who's the most entertaining, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, Dana White made a great point about it. He was saying how if you were to make the fight Kim Kardashian versus Amanda Nunes, how amazing, how many buys that would get. Everyone would tune in. Oh, Kim Kardashian's gonna get her ass beat. But then
Yeah.
it's like that at that point you're making a mockery of the sport. It's like it's not, no one wants to see that. The people who are in it for the challenge and people who are in it to see who is the best fighter. So yeah,
Mhm.
no, you make a great point with that for sure. But I want to ask you, man, about the Cyril Gane Derek Lewis fight. Who do you think takes the interim belt home and faces Ngannou after that?
I don't know, man. I mean, I thought Ngannou was gonna smash Derek Lewis. You know what I mean? But I think people have such respect for his power, man. It's like people will play the point game with him, and Derek might end up edging, out a decision too. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, because people understand that like Derek, like in any exchange, you know what I mean, could just flatline you.
Definitely.
And then he also makes a statement after he flatlines you by continuing to like turn your brain into mashed potatoes. So like, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure fighters are back there like, look, don't let her being ref my fight, please, against fucking against fucking Derek Lewis, man, because you might not come back from that.
No, definitely. Well, I want to let you get going, man. I just got a few more questions for you. But first thing I want to ask you, we were talking about Instagram before we got on the recording, but I got to ask you, man, you got one of the best Instagrams. Like I'm seeing all your posts and stuff. I love the style of your posts. And I wanted to ask you about this one because it's such a fun thing to talk about. Everybody, it was going crazy about the Sean O'Malley Chris Moutinho fight.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
this guy
yeah.
was just getting battered and was not going out. And then the stoppage with 30 seconds left is standing TKO, and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah.
I want to ask you about that fight because you had your thoughts about it. What do you think?
Yeah, man, it was awesome. I mean, I think they kind of had I think they kind of fed him to the wolves, a little bit right there, but to give, what I mean, to give Chris that opportunity on 10 days notice. Like I felt like maybe there were some other guys out there that could have done, like my teammate Brandon Davis, he's been fucking on a tear since he got released, but that was a fight that Brandon had asked for when he was in the UFC. But the UFC knows, like, you know what I mean? Like that's their future cash cow is Sean O'Malley. So we're not gonna really. We need to give him somebody that he can shows his assets on as far as the fight goes and be entertaining. Because like if we put him up against somebody tough, like on 10 days notice, you know what I mean? They could have been out Sean O'Malley and fucking Conor McGregor in one card. You know what I mean? Two big cash cows. But Chris Munoz, man, he showed us some fucking heart and durability. I can always respect that. I have my fantasy football group, man, was like, hey, he's like, Chase, can you get Chris Munoz's number and like add him to the group? Like, cause they were fucking like they started making all these memes and sharing. They call him. Everybody's calling him in the group chat the Green Goblin because he had the fucking green hair, so they referred to him as the Green Goblin. It was like Chase, get his number and add him to the group chat, man. He's like, we want to send him to we want him to come to the fantasy football draft. And I was like, I don't know him like that, but I'll try.
It's just crazy because how everyone was supposed to be talking about Sean O'Malley, you think, because before it was all Sean O'Malley, always going to get a knockout. And now everyone's talking about the guy who got TKO'd in the third round, regardless of stoppage or whatever. But, well, man, I want to let you get going, like I said. So, man, I typically end my interview with, oh, what can people expect to see when you fight next? But since I've interviewed before, I got to come up with something new. So let me just say, man, what do you have to say? What do you have to say to the fans? What do you got to say to Rodrigo Nascimento? What do you got to say to Parker Porter? What do you got to say to Andre? Who just send out a message to somebody for me.
I don't have much to say anymore, man. To be honest with you, man, and I'm just gonna let my work do the speaking for me, because mostly I had to sit back and kind of chew on a lot of the shit that happened after that fight, man, and listen to a lot of the comments and how it looked like I was stiff as a board and stuck in mud and only, and wasn't moving or doing anything. And how I lost to like a 40-year-old, all the shit that you have to deal with after a loss. And it's just like, what am I going to say? You know what I mean? What am I going to say? Oh, well, I fucking tore my knee. Like, nobody cares. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your excuses. Nobody cares about this shit. So I had to sit back and these last couple months and, go through surgery and rehab and really kind of chew on that. And so now it's kind of like, I'm going to show you motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I'm going to show you all like what I'm capable of. And it starts August 21st, man. It really shouldn't have never ended because after Ike, I was still going, you know what I mean? I just, had what happened. You know what I mean? And I believe it was a blessing in disguise. And so yeah, if I had to say anything, it's like I'm gonna show you. You're gonna see.
Well, we're looking forward to it, man. Honestly, one of my favorite people to interview, and it's getting the second interview, and it especially shows. So, man, we're looking forward to it against Parker Porter. We're gonna see you back, man. Awesome time interviewing. It's an honor, man. So, thank you so much for the time.
All right, brother. Take care.
You too, man.